Hi, Craig Sullivan with Sullivan Financial Partners. Welcome back to the Confident Retirement Journey. Today, we're going to talk about when is the right time to make adjustments in our portfolios. Number one is understand that adjustments are okay. They're a normal part of managing any portfolio, whether it's you managing your own or somebody in our position that manages portfolios for hundreds of clients that we have. Number one is to understand that sometimes goals evolve. In fact, most times goals evolve. Your plans for things change, and that's okay. It's important to have a nimble enough strategy that you can adapt with those changes. Another change that happens quite often is your risk changes, or your tolerance for risk changes. Think of it like this. Somebody who's in their 30s may be comfortable risking a really good majority of their money because they don't need it for quite some time. But what we find is as people get closer to or in retirement, they become much more concerned with the security of their money. You may have heard it put the return of your money rather than the return on your money. Now, I'm not saying that we don't want the returns, but it's about balancing that risk and making adjustments as necessary. Another thing that can have a big effect on this is major life events. How about things like retiring, right? Like we said before, sometimes we find that when you have a life event happen, it changes your mindset about things. So it's important to have a calculated way to make these adjustments. What does it actually mean to adjust? First, let's talk asset allocation. Generally, when somebody looks at a portfolio, they may have some percentage in cash for liquidity, security. They may have something in some kind of income-producing assets like a bonds or CDs or annuities, things like that. And then they may have something in growth-style assets such as stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, REITs, real estate. What we find rebalancing across asset allocations is that maybe, to use our example previously, that 30-year-old has 80% of their money in that growth sector, right? So your stocks, your ETFs, things like that. And maybe as we get closer to or in retirement, we see that people start dropping that risk tolerance down and we change that asset allocation to where maybe we're looking closer to that 40 or 50% range in the stocks, the equities, things of that nature. And they want security with a bigger portion of their allocation. Growth and stability balance. This goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. So growth-oriented assets have one goal in mind. Grow, 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 try to make big returns. Sometimes as we get older, stability is probably the more important thing for at least some portion, maybe a little bit larger portion of our money than when we were younger. Risk profile awareness, again, goes back to saying the same thing over and over, right? But this is a different way to look at it. Generally speaking, if we were to give somebody a risk tolerance assessment and they're in that 30-year to 40-year-old range, their risk tolerance score is going to be really, really high. Whereas somebody that's closer to and in retirement is going to have a lower or more moderate style risk assessment. Just as important as when to rebalance is when not to rebalance. Panic selling is one big area that we have to make sure we're paying attention to. Sometimes we see when there's a big market correction. Let's go back to COVID or any of the other recent scenarios where the market took a sharp dive. There were a lot of times that we were seeing, not necessarily with our clients, but with the industry in general, that people were scared. And when they got scared, they panicked and sold everything because something sharp was happening in the markets. That's not really the best time to sell low and lock in losses. There needs to be a strategy involved. Emotional decisions are another one. One big area we try to make clear is that you need to have a true plan for your assets. You need to remove emotions from your investments. Having a good, solid plan you can count on can really help with that. And then sometimes there's very minor differences when your portfolio is out of balance. You're only 1 or 2 percentage points off, and the cost of making that rebalance doesn't quite outweigh the benefits of doing so. We don't want to make adjustments just to make adjustments. It's important to have a clear, calculated vision and plan about why we're making decisions we are when it comes to your retirement future. That's what we do for the Confident Retirement Journey. We make sure that your investment plan is not just a stack of investments, but it's part of a comprehensive, intuitive financial plan. If you need help developing that for yourself, give us a shout. We'd be happy to help. Until then, we challenge you to keep thinking bigger, keep exploring the possibilities.